Welcome back to Luminous Star Fables. Today we talk about the Gospel of Katt Williams' truth, faith, and survival. In the high-stakes world of entertainment, where silence is often the price of admission, a new doctrine rises, one built on autonomy, defiance, and the unwavering belief that truth is its own form of warfare. This is the gospel of the Independent Mogul, the whistleblower architect who steps into the shadows not to hide, but to sharpen. By disappearing into inner work and shadow work, he allows the industry to grow comfortable, complacent, unaware that he is preparing a return powerful enough to shake every table at once. When he reemerges, he does so with a precise yet powerful positioning, lighting what was meant to stay in the dark and disrupt all 5 families in a single strike. His weapon is authenticity, sharpened by an intellectual data bank and amplified through algorithmic campaigning, crafting content so compelling that viewers check it 17 times in a row. In a world built on illusion, truth becomes the most dangerous technology. Financial independence forms the spine of this gospel. In an industry engineered to strip creators of their intellectual property, self-funding becomes the ultimate act of rebellion. By financing a dozen or more specials on his own, the mogul transforms from a bought and paid for employee into a sovereign licensor. He doesn't sell his work, that he licenses it for 8-figure fees while keeping the masters. He controls the set, the sound, the opening acts, the brand. Katt replaces corporate ad budgets with grassroots loyalty, tithing 10% back into the small towns that support him. This unfunded model becomes the shield that protects a 30-year career from cancellation, blacklisting, or the whims of the good old boys table. When you own the work, the revenue, and the relationship with the audience, no institution can silence you. But independence comes with friction. Hollywood's gatekeeper economy is built on fraternities, rituals, and shortcut structures that reward plants and punish journeymen. Williams refuses all of it. He rejects the shortcuts, the compromises, the dress roles, the rituals, the big homies, the 5 families. He stands alone, backed not by corporations, but by consistency, craft, and God. Conflicts with peers, whether over stolen jokes, shortcuts, or rewritten histories, are not petty feuds. They are battles over integrity. When a 1998 Comic View closing joke appears verbatim in a 2000 arena performance, it becomes a violation of universal checks and balances. And Katt's creed is simple. Winners are not allowed to allow losers to rewrite history. Contracts become scripture in this gospel, tools of chastisement, protection, and dominance. The Money Mike negotiation stands as a parable of authenticity. He refused a script scene, declaring it was never funny and would destroy his credibility. He designed the hair, the wardrobe, the purple prowler. He insisted on hiring Magic Don Juan for authenticity. Even the infamous dress clause served as a boundary, a reminder that collaboration requires integrity. And through it all, he maintained a virgin record, refusing parties, favors, and compromises that would give the industry leverage. In rooms full of power, this clean record forces others to lower their gaze. At the heart of it all is material originalism, the sacred commitment to self-authored work. Fueled by thousands of nonfiction books consumed each year, Katt speaks on historically significant topics long before they reach the mainstream. Original research becomes the root system that allows him to survive the age of truth, while others, propped up by shortcuts, juicing, or synthetic positioning, wither under scrutiny. Longevity belongs only to the independent product, the creator who stays in the gym, does the shadow work, and refuses to let anyone rewrite the legacy he bled to build. And for survivors of abuse, 3 lessons rise from these pillars of strength. First, autonomy is not a luxury, it is a lifeline. When you reclaim your voice, your choices, and your narrative, you reclaim the power that was taken from you. Second, boundaries are not walls. They are survival tools. The way Katt refused compromising roles, compromising contracts, and compromising environments mirrors the way survivors can protect their peace, their dignity, and their healing. Third, truth is a long game. You do not have to rush your comeback. You do not have to prove your worth to the people who harmed you. Like the mogul who stepped away to sharpen in the shadows, you are allowed to rebuild quietly, privately, and on your own terms until the day you rise with a strength no one can deny. This is the Gospel of Katt, a doctrine of truth, faith, and survival. A reminder that in a world built on illusion, the one who owns his voice, his craft, and his story becomes untouchable. And as Katt once said, in this gospel, one commandment echoes above all others. Winners are not allowed to allow losers to rewrite history.
Okay, so if you were anywhere near the internet, you know what happened. The nearly 3-hour interview that literally stopped everything. It was a cultural earthquake. Comedian Katt Williams sat down with Shannon Sharpe, and for 163 minutes, he wasn't there to just tell a few jokes. Nah. He came to settle scores. Let's get right into this masterclass in what you might call narrative warfare.
Right out of the gate, this was his opening shot, and really, it's the theme for the entire thing. See, according to Katt Williams, this wasn't about drama, it wasn't about being messy, it was about protecting the truth. He was setting himself up not as some guy starting fights, but as a historian, here to correct the record he believes was being completely twisted by his peers.
So, the big question is, why now, and why on this particular show, Club Shay Shay? Williams is, famously private. He doesn't just do interviews. So it's clear he showed up with a very specific and a very, very public mission.
He basically said he felt like he had to respond. He told Shannon Sharpe he'd watched other comedians come on that very same show and, in his words, tell straight-up lies. So this wasn't just some casual conversation. No, this was a direct, targeted response. He was there to reclaim his own story from things he considered totally made up. And this, my friends, is where the fireworks really, truly began. Williams didn't just hint at his frustrations, he named names. He brought out his receipts, and he challenged some of the biggest names in comedy head-on.
Let's start with the role of Money Mike in Friday After Next. I mean, it's iconic. But it turns out there are two completely different stories about how it came to be. On one side, you have Katt's version. He says he was audition number 201, that he beat out 200 other comics for the part. He also says the original script had a really disturbing scene in it for the character, which he refused to do and had them take out. But then, there's Ricky Smiley's version. Smiley had claimed on the same show that the role was actually his. Williams just found this completely ridiculous. He even said he put a clause in his contract to never work with Smiley again unless the guy was wearing a dress. Two very, very different realities.
Okay, next up, the joke theft. Williams lays out this super specific timeline about a joke he claims Cedric the Entertainer stole from him. He says, look, in 1998, this joke was my big closer on BET's Comic View. The next year, 1999, Cedric sees me perform it live. And then, boom, 2000. Williams alleges that Cedric performs the exact same joke, word for word, in the legendary Kings of Comedy tour. For Katt, the timeline is everything. He's saying, this isn't a coincidence, it was a straight-up lift. Now, to get his next point, you have to understand a piece of Hollywood slang he uses, the word plant. A plant, in this context, is someone whose success just seems, well, manufactured. It's somebody who gets these huge deals without any real history of grinding it out, suggesting that some hidden hand in the industry is just pushing them to the top. And this brings us right to Kevin Hart. Williams starts asking questions. How does a comedian, in his first year in LA, get his own network sitcom and star in his own movie? Williams says that nobody in the LA comedy scene back then remembers Hart working the clubs, getting standing ovations, or earning his stripes before these massive deals just appeared. To Katt Williams, the math just doesn't add up.
And his critique of Steve Harvey was just as brutal. Williams basically argues that Harvey didn't have the talent to be a real movie star, but then he gets even more personal, claiming Harvey stole his life story of being homeless, a story Williams says is his actual, authentic experience, not Harvey's.
Bino, this was about more than just calling out individuals. Williams was really laying out his entire philosophy on life, and his philosophy on the comedy world itself. This wasn't just about arguments. For him, it was about principles.
I think it's a question a lot of us have, right? Why is there so much fighting? Isn't comedy supposed to just make people laugh and be happy? Well, Katt Williams has a very different perspective on that.
He sees comedy not as this big, happy family, but as a sport. He's not there to be friends with the other team. It's a competition. And in his mind, you don't go out for drinks with the team you're trying to beat on Sunday. For him, that competition is natural, it's necessary, and it's what makes people great.
And in this sport, Williams thinks the scoreboard is the work itself. He keeps bringing up his 12 comedy specials and compares them to what he calls Cedric the Entertainer's 4 unavailable specials. He's making a point that greatness, or not so greatness, it's all right there in your body of work. It's about what you've actually produced, not just what people say about you.
And at the absolute core of his worldview is this belief in a secret system. He calls it a cabal that basically props up certain people. He claims there's this hidden group that decides who gets to be famous and who doesn't, and it's all based on who's willing to play the game, not who has the most talent.
So you have to wonder, where does a worldview like this come from? Well, Williams gave us a little peek into a pretty unbelievable childhood that he says is the foundation for the man he is today. He suggests that his entire way of thinking started taking shape when he was incredibly young. Williams claims he wasn't just reading early, he was reading fluently by the age of 3, which right there sets the stage for a life of just intense self-education. And that hunger for information just exploded. He makes this absolutely wild claim that from age 8 to 12, he was reading about 3,000 nonfiction books a year. For him, this wasn't just a hobby. It was how he built the entire foundation of how he sees the world.
And then came the moment that changed absolutely everything. At just 13 years old, he legally emancipated himself from his parents, left home, and became homeless in Florida. He says that experience, living on the streets, is what truly forged his understanding of truth, lies, and what it takes to survive.
So, when you boil it all down, this whole 3-hour event really comes down to one central conflict: the battle between what someone sees as objective truth and the stories people tell. Who gets to be the author of the story? And this quote right here, it just nails it. This is the heart of the whole thing. Is Katt Williams a brave truth teller fighting a corrupt system, or is he something else entirely? In his own mind, he has a very rare skill. He's profoundly confident because he believes he's grounded in facts, not delusion. And that's a very fine line that he believes he walks perfectly.
In the end, this explainer really isn't about deciding who's right and who's wrong. It's about trying to understand the battlefield itself. Because when careers are built on stories, the most powerful person in the room is the one holding the pen. And the question Katt Williams really leaves all of us with is, who actually deserves to be the one writing it?